What is the single greatest event in human history? Was it the invention of agriculture, the rise of Rome, the birth of Christ, the discovery of America, the world wars? Historians argue endlessly over turning points. Yet if we measure history by one simple question, which event changed the lives of the greatest number of people the most, there is one answer that towers above all others: the Industrial Revolution. Not because it created new world religions, not because it created empires, not because there were great military heroes involved, but because it fundamentally altered the laws governing human society. It was the moment humanity escaped the rules that had governed civilization for nearly 10,000 years. Let me explain. The first great turning point in history was the agricultural revolution. Around 10,000 years ago, humans settled down, cultivated crops, and built permanent settlements. Cities emerged, kingdoms emerged, empires emerged. Writing, mathematics, philosophy, and religion all flourished. Yet for ordinary people, life changed astonishingly little over thousands of years. Whether you were a farmer in England, a merchant in Mughal India, a scholar in Qing China, or a janissary in the Ottoman Empire, your life was governed by remarkably similar limits. Energy came from human muscles, animals, wind, or water. Nearly everyone worked the land. Travel was painfully slow. Most children never reached adulthood. Famines were common. Economic growth was so weak that whenever production increased, population simply grew until poverty returned. This was the Malthusian Trap, named after the English economist Thomas Robert Malthus. According to Malthus, population grows geometrically, while food production increases only arithmetically. Eventually, population outstrips resources, forcing nature to restore balance through famine, disease, and war. Almost every civilization, no matter how sophisticated, eventually collided with the same ceiling. Rome built magnificent roads. The Song dynasty invented gunpowder and printing. The Abbasid Caliphate led the world in science. The Mughals built architectural masterpieces. Yet none escaped the same fundamental constraint. Then in 18th century Britain, something unprecedented happened. In post-Enlightenment Britain, in the middle of a scientific revolution, science, engineering, finance, and industry converged into a single economic system. Knowledge became an economic resource. Scientific discoveries could be patented, financed, commercialized, and rapidly deployed on an unprecedented scale. This created a powerful cycle of innovation in which science generated technology, technology generated wealth, and wealth financed even more science, establishing a self-reinforcing engine of progress that continues to shape the modern world. Instead of relying solely on land, humanity discovered an entirely new source of productive power. Coal. Britain sat atop vast, easily accessible coal deposits. Steam engines converted fossil fuels into mechanical energy on a scale never before imagined. Factories multiplied the productivity of each worker. Machines spun thread, forged iron, pumped water, and drove locomotives. Captive markets in the colonies allowed British industry to sell the products produced by its new mechanized factories. Later, the resources of the New World supplied raw materials for the expanding industrial complex. The Industrial Revolution started in England, but it soon spread to other parts of the world. Output began growing faster than population. For the first time in history, productivity consistently outpaced demographic growth. This was the crucial breakthrough. In the Malthusian world, more people meant smaller slices of the same economic pie. In the industrial world, the pie itself kept expanding. As factories became more productive, wages gradually rose instead of falling. Higher incomes encouraged investment in education, sanitation, and healthcare. Families eventually began choosing to have fewer children, a process economists call the demographic transition. Population continued to grow, but much more slowly than industrial output. The old feedback loop had been reversed. Instead of prosperity creating population growth that erased prosperity, productivity growth generated even greater productivity through investment, innovation, and technological progress. At each stage, new technological breakthroughs expanded the horizons of growth. Invention of new sources of energy, faster methods of transportation, new forms of communication, new materials all accelerated growth. Each generation built upon the technological achievements of the last, making future innovation faster than previous innovation. electricity, steel, chemicals, internal combustion engines, aviation, antibiotics, computers, and even AI. Almost every major technology of the modern world rests upon foundations laid during the Industrial Revolution. After Industrial Revolution, growth became cumulative. Each generation inherited not merely the possessions of the previous one, but its accumulated knowledge, technology, infrastructure, and productive capacity. For thousands of years, history moved in circles. After the Industrial Revolution, it began moving upward. Its impact can be measured not only in inventions, but in human lives. Life expectancy in Europe and then in most of the world doubled. Infant mortality collapsed. Deaths from infectious disease fell dramatically. Literacy became nearly universal. Famine, once a regular feature of history, largely disappeared across industrial societies. The average person today enjoys comforts that would have astonished kings only 3 centuries ago. None of this means the Industrial Revolution was painless. Early factories were dangerous. Cities were overcrowded. Pollution darkened the skies. Workers endured brutal conditions. In parts of the developing world, these conditions persist still. But despite those immense costs, one fact is unmistakable. The modern world exists because of the Industrial Revolution. Historians like Eric Hobsbawm described it as one of the greatest transformations in human history. Industrialization created an entirely new kind of civilization, one unlike anything humanity had experienced before. Perhaps our historical imagination should reflect that transformation. Instead of instinctively thinking in terms of ancient, medieval, and modern, or centering history on the birth of a single religious figure. Perhaps we should first ask a different question. If there is one moment when history truly accelerated, when average human life fundamentally changed, it was not the fall of an empire, not the crowning of a king, not even the discovery of a continent. It was the Industrial Revolution. Everything since has unfolded in its shadow. Perhaps then, the most important divide in history is not between before Christ and after Christ. It is between a world before the Industrial Revolution and the world after it.